we had literally no more space. We were busting through the walls, and so literally decided to bust the wall down.
Hi, I'm Russ, and this is the Memory Makers Podcast, the show that helps you create amazing customer experiences and make more memory. Today, we have an owner-operator interview with none other than Miss Stephanie Moxley of Pins and Wheels. Stephanie, how are you, amiga?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve. I'm just keeping those skis pointed downhill.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I'm super excited to have you on today. So for those of you who are familiar or know Stephanie, you're going to love this. And those of you who don't, Stephanie owns and operates with Pins and Wheels. And we're going to talk specifically about a big project that you guys have gone through in growth and renovation on the facility, talking through how some of that process went, how was some of the planning, how was some of the execution, some lessons learned, and more. So excited to dive in with you, and want to start with, how did you give us the 30,000 foot view of what got you into the business of family entertainment? How did you find your way into this world of crazy characters, and a little bit of that, if you don't mind?
I'll say probably it wasn't my choice necessarily to be in the business world. I grew up here.
Okay.
My parents bought the skating rink when I was in 5th grade, and I hung out all the time. So middle school, I was here. I started helping them with some of the big events. I worked like the concession and made drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just fell in love with it. And it is all I have ever known. It's the only job I've ever worked for. My parents have been my only bosses at the time. We all work together now, but I grew up here and just haven't ever left.
Okay, child of the industry, baptized by fire at an early age.
And people always ask me, like, what would you do if you left here? And the only thing I can say is I would never work for somebody else. So.
I know. Well, so I worked at a laser tag facility when I was in high school, and I was a party host and a laser tag marshal and all of that fun stuff, and went off, and started down this path where, like, I did my master's and was doing Fortune 500 IT consulting and stuff, and it was just not fulfilling. And then having come back into that world and on my 10th year at Creative Works now, it's like I'm ruined for all other things. Like I can't imagine being outside of the industry and all of that stuff. So it definitely has its curveballs and characters for sure, but it's I just love the ability to be a force for good, right? And creating some of those pieces. So let's dive in a little bit on the project. Talk to me a little bit about what Pins and Wheels was prior to this big undertaking that you guys put in versus and what at 30,000 feet, what were some of the expansion and changes that you guys have gone through recently? Yeah,
so our name was Playland Skate Center.
Mm-hmm.
And it had opened in 1974 here in Austin. It is a Austin original.
Mm-hmm.
Austin has changed so much over the years. I feel like every other month we're hearing about an original Austin building closing its doors, and we decided we weren't going to be one of those. Mm-hmm. So my parents bought it in 2001, mm-hmm. and we've had it ever since, and just fell in love with it all. I went to, like I said earlier, I grew up middle school working, high school working, knew I wanted to come over and, take it over and operate it. So I graduated high school, got a business degree at the same time when I was still operating and running it on the weekends. So kind of did both. And then got my degree. That was something I always wanted, and a goal of myself was to go, get a business degree in it, and then came back and have taken it over, and it's flown by.
I love it. What did you guys have under the hood, so to speak, in the original configuration, as far as the attractions and kind of different nodes within the business? And then we'll start to get into the transformation and the evolution side of stuff.
Roller skating. That was it.
Yeah. Any arcade, anything?
We had a very, very small arcade, and we kind of expanded it over the years as we could. Our floor is massive. We've actually taken about 20 feet of our skate floor and put in more arcade. But before the renovation, we had about 20 games.
Gotcha.
So it was a small arcade. We had a snack bar, your typical hot dogs, your nachos from, the melted cheese machine, the gel machine. It was, it was a snack bar.
Yellow dye number 5. It's so good. Yep. It's so good.
But yeah, it was roller skating and about 20 arcade games. So that was the only attractions that we had. And
now that you guys, we'll Tarantino it and flash forward to the updates. What all went into the changeover and the rebrand and everything else? What is that now when we jump to what it is today?
So today we have our roller skating. We have not touched that side. It's been great for us. We have roller skating. We have about 40 arcade games with the intention to bring in about 10 more. Mm-hmm. We have 12 lanes of bowling, 6 lanes of axe throwing, a VR component, and a full bar and restaurant.
Love it. So
and a much larger redemption area and 2 private party rooms.
Love that. Okay, so big expansion then. So what do you have an idea of roughly how much square foot the original versus your current footprint is now?
Yeah, so it was 27,500 on the other side. Mm-hmm. And the building was split right down the middle, so we gained additional 27.
Gotcha. So it wasn't that you were building onto it; you were acquiring the neighboring side and then opening that up.
Correct. Yes, we own the land and the building, and the tenants that were next door, their lease was up, and we decided not to renew because
going for it.
We were maxed out. We couldn't. We couldn't host any more events. We couldn't host any more birthday parties. The things that we wanted to do, we had literally no more space. We were busting through the walls, and so literally decided to bust a wall down.
I love it. Okay, so let's take a look at knowing that, and that being one of the main driving forces for what was triggering this growth and this change. Hey, we're maxed out on our throughput and capacity. Like we've hit this ceiling of just the physical limitations and what they're going to allow us to do. By doubling up that space essentially and growing to those new elements, with knowing that we want food and beverage, we want bowling, and we want a little bit more arcade, was the intent to, hey, obviously this is going to attract, it's going to allow us to serve more people overall, but are we focusing on a specific primary demographic that we wanted to attract more of? Did we want to just have more for people to do from a per cap spending standpoint? Like, what were some of the kind of key tenets of success that you guys outlined as far as, hey, by doing this, we're going to be able to achieve, more X amount more in growth and overall sales, but we're going to see a more of a, expanded birthday party business or corporate business or things along those lines. Right.
So we had the kids' birthday party package. We had that nailed down, that was always there. But we have a huge adult crowd. Mm-hmm. One of our biggest nights, still now, to be honest, is our adult night. It's every Tuesday. It's been going on for 30 years, and it's 18 and up. And so we have a huge crowd for adults. Nice. So much that about 2 years ago, we decided to do it on a Saturdays nights as well.
Dang.
So we have 2 adult nights, but we wanted to cater more towards the adults. They didn't, they would go out to eat and then come skating. Mm-hmm. And then cater to a lot of the corporate and the big events. There's a lot of people that wanted to do catering and rent our space, and we didn't have the capacity to do that. So they had to outsource. It's like, well, you can rent our space, but you have to bring in a catering company. And so, it's like, well, why don't we just be the catering company?
Yeah.
So we've gotten a lot more adults, a lot more corporate events coming in, using the space. The big thing I would say, even in the family aspect of it, is our birthday parties now the birthday party is over, and before the birthday party is over, they've skated. There wasn't anything else to do. The birthday party was over, and they've left. Yeah. Now they're mingling to the next side. The parents are sitting on the couches, having a few drinks, relaxing a little bit more, and then as the kids go and play the VR games or run around in the arcade and hang out. So people are staying longer.
Hell yeah.
Noticed dramatically.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the vision and the goal right there. That's so
great.
And
if you stay longer, you're spending more money.
That's what I'm saying. Dwell time and per cap spending. It's like 2 of the big 3 things that just impact the bottom line so much. That's fantastic. so was there, when you guys were initially thinking, hey, we're not gonna renew the lease, we're gonna open this up, we're gonna expand, we're gonna diversify the portfolio, was it always going to be, hey, it's bowling and food and beverage, restaurant piece and arcade? Or what were you guys initially considering to be part of that new mix in the expansion? And was it different than what you ended up with?
I knew we were going to do arcade right away. I knew we were going to do a big redemption, the store. We just had a very small wall and a counter, and it was always packed. So those two were 100%. And the restaurant, we wanted to be able to fully offer a restaurant style, being able to cater, that kind of thing. And we have this, it's my favorite space. It's called the yard, and it's just it's a turf area. It's a green area. It's just a multi-use. We have cornhole in it, but we've also had people, reserve it for an event.
Yeah.
Or you just have the moms there, and then the 3-year-old is just playing with their car on the
yeah.
So I knew right off the bat I wanted those three. And then in terms of were we going to do bowling or X-ring or laser tag or mini golf or all of the other things, we had a consultant help us with the feasibility studies and did some research and narrowed down. And then we ended up, capitalizing on bowling and X-ring.
I love it. So if you don't mind sharing, who'd you guys use on the consulting side?
Turfway Entertainment, Dave Wallace and his team.
Love it. So as knowing that, because that was going to be my next thing of like, how do you guys start to prepare and know kind of where the vision needs to go? Obviously they work on things like demographic analysis. Hey, based on what your people are and what they're going to spend, you get some good pro formas and informed elements that go along with that, which I highly recommend. It's, and because again, it's such a big investment. We've got to make sure that what we're going to pick is going to align and perform well within the market based on hey, this is areas that we see that are underserved, but should we double down solely on that, or where do we pick those spots, and even just what's going to be on the menu at the restaurant, of who we're trying to attract and all of that. Besides using a consultant, what other things were you guys doing to arm yourself with either preparation or expand the knowledge base as you were getting into the process?
It's been an ongoing thing. I knew I always wanted more of the rink, whether it was expanded here or we did a second location.
Sure.
I definitely felt that I was ready for a bigger challenge, and I took on a challenge. But the big thing is it's still a family business to the core.
Yeah.
And so throughout the process of like our true values and who we are, I just had to remind myself of the vision that I had always seen, and okay, is it aligned? Is this truly who we are? We're not a corporation. I know so many regulars here, our employees, our customers, they truly matter to us. And so I feel that really helped us align. Like, is this the vision? Is this what we want? That top level service really helped us guide. Sometimes you have to take a step back, and
well, and you don't want to lose the forest for the trees and lose that sticky sauce of this is what's made us successful. This how do we build on our culture, if it's working, which it sounds like it was, obviously, but
right.
versus shaking the etch a sketch.
Ourselves, like, if it's not fixed, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right.
So why are we trying to recreate something when we've been doing it for almost 23 years and we've been doing it really, really well? So, how do we continue to do those same procedures and those same processes a little bit different, but still be truly still who we are and to our core?
Sure. Well, and like a restaurant has its own nuances and complexities of what needs to happen for it. But if you're using the archetype of hey, this works for us on a process, our team's familiar with it, whether it's the verbiage, the dialect and whatnot, but it's just how do you get that to meld into what you guys are, which I love. So what else did you guys do from events or other operators that you talked with just to kind of, vet that? Like what other external things did you guys utilize and rely on as you were proving this out?
Yeah. We go to quite a few conferences. My favorite one is hosted by Creative Works I could always
Oh,
go to the
your
April one.
check's in the mail, friend. Appreciate you.
No, that conference is amazing. IAPA. I mean, we have a lot of friends in the industry too, and just always
Yeah.
talked around. I mean, we came from the Roller Skating Association and the roller skating background, and even friends with roller skating. Those, we have a lot of people who've added laser tag to theirs, or a soft play, or they've added attractions too. So you talk to them like, hey, what kind of attractions did you expand to? Because I was skating rinks turning into more of an FEC.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of research. Overall, it was research for about a year. Maybe even in the vision. To be honest, the vision was 5 years.
Yeah.
I always knew something was going to happen. So when we finally pulled the trigger, it was here.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love that, just because, one, you've got to do that due diligence. You've got to make sure that you're doing things the right way. And I think that we found this as we grew as a company, both at Laser Flash back in my operations days, or even here at Creative Works, of, man, it really comes down to not losing who we are, but how do we expand what we can do, and what opportunities does that bring up, and being able to talk to others who have gone down that path of, hey, what did you guys see? What worked for you? What didn't? All of that stuff. I tell people from outside of our industry, like, how crazy it is, the willingness to share and have this open-handed mindset when you're talking to other people and what they've done, and how open people are willing to be for the most part, that have all of that. For your team, obviously going through and expanding, you had to hire more people, I'm assuming, to be able to cover the, new offerings that you guys had. Starting to add in a chef and a wait staff and everything else is its own animal and ecosystem and things like that. So culturally, as you guys say, hey, this is who we are, this is how we do things, you've got that, woven into the DNA. What were some of the challenges in protecting that by having a new influx? Because, you're not having to, I don't know, you tell me, did you guys have to double your staff? Was it, by the time all was said and done, was it a 15%, uptick? And how do you make sure that when you do have a large new kind of populace within the staff, that can be not shifty, that can have a disruption factor, because it's a much faster rate of change or questioning to what is going on. So how did you guys look at that from a hiring standpoint and from a culture and nourishment standpoint?
I mean, yeah, that's a great question, and probably the biggest challenge of it all. We had 27 employees, including, supervisors and skate attendants. I think the biggest thing, and I said this casually, and then someone was like, wait, pause and just realize what you said, is we closed down during our renovation. We closed down for a whole month. So we were able to do a lot of renovation on the new side of the wall still being up.
Gotcha.
And we closed down for a month, and we redesigned our entry on the new side. So we were closed down for the whole month of October. And we had been telling our staff, giving them plenty of heads up, saying, hey guys, we're going to be closed for a month. We will have very minimal hours, maybe some projects here and there of, we redid our skate counter. So taking all of our skates and putting all of our skates back on, So very, very minimal staff. And when we were ready to have our first management meeting to kind of, hey, we're going to open in a few days, all 27 members came back.
Oh, right on.
And so that was a really big eye-opening of the culture we had and the way we've been doing things, and going back to who we are as a core, right? So that was a huge eye-opening of, like, we have to keep who we are.
Yeah.
But the challenge of that, of bringing in, and my former manager who had left at the time, she works remotely now, but she'd been with me and my parents for 18 years. So she was part of our family to our core. She knew exactly who we were, but we brought in a lot of new people, and yeah, there was some disruptiveness, and it wasn't, you're having to train them on not only the procedures and how things operate, but you're also having to train them on how we do things here.
Yeah.
How we speak to people here, how we handle situations, how we correct and direct, how we're compassionate and friendships with them, but still in a professional way. A big family here. We have a lot of people who've been here for a long time, and so I think that they probably, I call them my OGs, my original group, that they had a hard time, because new management was coming in and having to give them directions when they were like, well, I've been here longer than you. So that was, that's the biggest challenge of trying to find someone not only who can do the job well, but the culture and how you do the job.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. So you guys had 27. What are you guys at roughly now?
We're about 60 to 70.
Holy cow. So more than doubled. Yeah. Man, that's some tectonic plate shifts.
That was probably the biggest thing for me. I was very, I worked very closely with the staff. I got to know, and so there's so many people here now that I'm like, okay, hold on. I don't know your story. I don't know who you are yet. And trying to still be close with every, know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, know what do they like to do? What is their situation? Are they in school? Is this a part-time job? Is this a full-time job? Like, how did did they come to us because they love skating, or did they come because, how did they find out about us? And just building those relationships with them is so important.
Yeah. Now, when you guys were doing that, were you doing like group auditions and trying to just get some, hey, we know we need to bring in more than what we'll end up keeping just due to natural kind of attrition rates that happen with new hires and changeover and all of that kind of stuff? Like, what did that look like? And I'm assuming you guys were also talking to the 27 and going, bring us people like you.
One of the things we did was we just had an open interview. And we announced it, and it's kind of a hiring mega thing. And we asked all of the current staff, we're like, hey, if you want to come be a part of it, talk to these people, mingle with these people, let them know what the job is they're applying for, and then take some notes and see if you liked them. And I would say about 22 out of the 27 came. It ended up just being a real big team bonding for the current staff too, and then meeting some people, and they felt that they were part of getting to choose who was joining our team. So I think they really enjoyed that.
Well, and then when you have that small knit group and the sense of ownership that the OGs have, and then knowing like, hey, we don't want to bring in energy vampires into this mix. Like, it's having that kind of backstop, or even when they're chatting with somebody who may be more of an OG frontline worker and things, it's like, hey, I know this looks good on paper, but like, here were two things that I noticed while they were here that like, that's just not us. And that's a thing.
Everyone, the right answer to say in an interview. So when you get to talk casually with someone more your age, or if it's a high school student, or if they're just hanging out and then they just start talking about something randomly, you can really get to know that person more than just your typical interview questions that everyone knows the right answer.
For sure. So remind me again, how long has it been since you guys reopened? Was this just last October? Forgive me. I forget.
The official open date on this side was December 13th.
December 13th. Okay. So still hot off the presses then. What are some of the biggest challenges that you guys are working to either modify a people, process, or product kind of element to it, or any of those things? Like, because again, some of it's still, we're in the thick of it. We're seeing what works during this time of year versus the lighter times of year, all of that stuff. What are some of the things that you guys have on your, kind of watch list of, hey, this needs attention and love because it's not, it's just not working, or we're still finding what that needs to be?
Hiring.
Yeah.
Finding the right people for it, now that we're fully open and people are moving and we're busy, and, it's like, okay, maybe this wasn't the right fit for you. So right now, to this exact moment, we need more staff.
Okay.
Especially on the service side. Now for me in particularly, because, the roller skating world is all I've ever known, and the attractions is all I've ever known. For me, particularly the restaurant side, that was a new thing for me.
Yeah.
Learning, just how the kitchen works and the steps in the restaurant. I've been out to eat.
But you're not thinking, I mean,
But-
it's now all of a sudden you have to be like, okay, how are we monitoring and tracking fridge temperatures and logging that stuff for the health code thing? And like, okay, are we consistently getting the water above the 100 and whatever degrees that it needs to be for just washing dishes? Like all of that stuff. Cause I remember we had that, we went from a snack shack to like a built-in Noble Romans kind of pizza thing. And even that in a small boutique kind of application was like, hey, this is a whole new thing that everybody's got to start to learn. But a full restaurant, like it's that and then some, obviously, that you guys have. Like it's such its own beast. And I think one of the things, especially for folks who haven't done it before or realize kind of the nuances of what that is in general, it takes some learning to really master that down.
Yeah. And then in the restaurant world and I hired people. One of the things I think one of the biggest things I took from college, a professor once told me, is hire people who are smarter than you.
Yeah.
Right. So they can do so
yeah.
they figure it out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
When I was looking for a management team, I was really looking for people with the restaurant and bar background because that was not my background.
Yeah.
So I can do attractions and birthday parties and the big events and things like that. No problem. Been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah.
But so I hired people with the background of a restaurant and bar. So then us mingling together, because I was like, well, we're a restaurant inside of FEC. So there's a little bit, people are hanging out here. So they're going to be at their table, and they're going to be at their table longer in there because they might just, be hanging out, but their kids are playing.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that aspect of the restaurant where you're there, you eat and you leave. Mm-hmm. So even they were having to make that adjustment too, right?
Yeah.
Or people that, they're not eating and they're just hanging out, but the mom wants to sit at a table while her kids go play. So, okay. So having that aspect of, the servers and sections and making sure the tip balances out because, it's these people are hanging out longer, or this like not really ordering much, but she's taking up a table.
Right.
So that's kind of been a bit of a challenge.
For sure. So what being about a month and a half in from that, what are the things that you guys are most pleased with, on the impact that you're seeing so far?
The customer response that we've been getting has been huge. One thing that we're very fortunate is we're not a new FEC in terms of like we built from the ground up and we had to educate and, let people know we were here. We had a massive following already. We truly haven't even made a huge grand announcement that we're open. I would say still about 75% of the people who walk in are walking in because they're skating. And then they their heads to the left and they're like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And they're coming back, right?
That's so cool.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy. We haven't even been able to have that huge big announcement, which I was okay with. I wanted to do a softer opening, get through our kinks, figure out what's going on before we really shout to the people. But it's spreading. Spreading.
So are we doing a parade? What's on your vision for what that kind of grand official christening is going to look like, so to speak? Are we taking a bottle of champagne and busting it on the side of the building like a yacht, or what?
I've done that quietly.
Okay.
But, no, definitely celebrated the win when we officially opened. But yeah,
Good.
We do want to plan something for end of February or something for this spring for that big, balloon ceremony, big opening kind of thing. There's just some things I want to make sure that the systems are down before we make that, because that'll be a huge spike with customers, and I don't want people coming in with us not being prepared.
Yeah, I think that is, as people get into the planning portion, and that's also one of those kind of sneaky undervalued elements of what's this transition time before we feel like we're like, what's the soft opening versus the official opening needing to look like? And some folks are like, yeah, we'll do it for a week or two. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of on the tight side, depending on what you're adding into the mix and how you're trying to get that new water line to level out and just get everybody comfortable, after being uncomfortable for the transition and everything too. So, love that. Okay. Well, gosh, I'm going to be mindful of our time, knowing, but we're going to have you back on, and we're going to have to see, dive in more on some of these things. I've so enjoyed the conversation. But before we go, I always like to ask, is there a favorite book that you have or are currently reading, or a podcast or a quote or a mantra that has served you guys well, or you personally well, that you'd like to share with the listeners and viewers?
My personal one for myself is chin up or the crown slips. So you gotta just keep your head up. And the current book I'm reading is the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, which kind of got hands in hands a little bit. You can't put your head down for that long. If something goes wrong, you just move on and put your head back up and chin up.
Keep after it.
Chin up and keep on going.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, Stephanie, I can't tell you how grateful I am for your time. I'm so thrilled to hear how well the transition has gone to this point, and obviously the new elements that you guys are taking on and tackling, and the impact that that's going to have for your guests and all of it. It just sounds fabulous, and I wish you all the best of luck, and we'll have you back on a little bit later to see how that is all continuing to grow and change for you guys.
Yeah, I was honored to be invited, and we'll love to chat again.
Heck yeah. Well, with that, we will continue to have more great content coming your guys' way. We really appreciate you listening to this episode. We've got new ones coming out every week. If you liked what you heard, make sure to give us a review on that 5 stars, please, and thank you. If you have ideas for other topics or elements that you'd like to hear us dive into more, please hit us up on social media, and we'll be sure to add that in. And big shout out to Mikey Mike on the 1s and 2s working the Ultranet for us. And as always, we'll see you on the next one, Troublemakers.